Hello Fada, accent on the Irish language, basic notes and background for the curious, with session leader Renata Henley. From the Hedge School at the Irish Roots Cafe. More courses and information found at www.irishroots.com.
Falchero of Harja, Gudi Hello Fada, Sharanata Ansha.
This is Hello Fada, and this is Mike talking to you. And today we're going to talk about Mackinaw. And I've heard people say, by Mackinaw, an Irishman you'll always know, they say, because he wears the Irish for his name each and every day.
Oh, you have to say that again.
I do.
You do. I want to hear that again.
Well, an Irishman you'll always know, they say, for he wears the Mackinaw before his name every single day.
Okay.
It was a little different that second time, but
Yeah.
we're talking on the fly here, you see.
So you're making things up, are you?
No, it's the spirit. That is
All
an
right.
old saying. It's a very old saying. And since I have the O before my name, I thought it was fitting that I memorize it.
Oh, that's very good.
Mm-hmm. Now, what do you know about Mac and O?
I know there's a lot of confusion out there about Mackinac.
I know that when I first started researching family history back in the 80s and the late 70s, I read in a book it'd say, well, you know, your name could have been a name, could have had an O in front of it, or it could have had a Mac in front of it. And I thought, okay. And it could have been dropped because okay.
Or it could have never had one.
That never had one. Or, and at the time I thought how terrible, it could have started off as an O name, and then somebody put a Mac on it when they didn't know what was in front of it, and they wanted to be Irish, so they put the Mac in front of it. How could I trace my family back? I'd be starting off with O'Loughlin, and maybe I'm Mac Laughlin. Oh, and that's why DNA is so important today.
Yes.
It straightens out the Macs and O's.
And so is family record keeping.
Oh, yes. That would help as well. But what about Mac and Mick?
Well, yeah, let me just say for real quick that Mac is a real word in the Irish language, and it means son. So what Mac used to mean, if you were Édon Mac Riordan, you were Édon son of Riordan. So.
That's right. And you know what happened with a lot of the surveyors came along, and a lot of, even in modern day phone books, the Mac was shortened to MC, Mick.
Right.
And some people think, oh, well, that means I'm a whole different family. Well, originally it was Mac too. It all meant the same.
Mick is the genitive or the possessive version.
Oh, there you go.
Of Mac.
There you go. You're throwing in words I don't even understand.
Yeah, sorry
but
about
I'm glad.
that.
No, I'm glad, because eventually it'll soak in over the years. Now, how about O?
O means grandson, or it's from the Irish that originally meant grandson, which was O fada, or E in the genitive.
And that would be UI.
UI
perhaps?
with a fada on the I.
If you go back looking at the Annals of the Four Masters, you're going to see UI. That would be like O'Reilly would have that UI in front of it. And you'd pronounce that how?
E.
E. Riley.
Right.
Oh, and today we say O'Reilly.
It is from the O.
Yes.
So, yeah.
And that was a fada. So it was an O with a fada after it.
On top of it.
On top of, that's right, it's on top of it. Today we put the apostrophe next to it.
That's it. It's the fada's moved.
And that apostrophe represents a lot of heritage that nobody understands. It thinks it's just some silly little mark.
I really like the fact that you brought up that a lot of times the Mac changed the O and the O changed the Mac. Or you get a word like a name like McGinnis, which is Mac-inish, I think. I think it's Mac's, and then the next part of the name starts with a vowel.
Oh, yes, and it ends
and
up
it becomes
being
McGinnis, and then maybe you get O McGinnis.
That's right. It's funny.
Or McGinnis.
That's right. Anytime you got something that could have been the C in a Mac, that tells you could have had Mac before a name too.
Right.
And it's pretty interesting. And I was reading, you never finished learning about these things, but I was reading a pretty good book the other day, and the fella said, well, in the beginning, when they first started surnames, I mean, before it was just, you were just John who lived on the hill or Fred or whoever it did. But they first started surnames. Everybody kept these names like I'm son of, or I am grandson of. Well, he said that the reason the Scottish don't really have the O names like the Irish do is because the Scots were very concerned with their heritage, and they wanted to prove who their father was, the paternal line.
Right.
And he said that in the beginning there really were no big rules, and you could have said, I'm the grandson of my mother's father, as well as I'm the grandson of my father's father. Now, from what you tell me, that's not true today at all. It doesn't work. It's not part of the system.
Right.
But he was saying that when it first began, there was no rule.
I think you're absolutely right. That was okay.
And so they could have said,
Yeah.
Like I could say, my name's O'Loughlin, but my mother's name was Donahue. Cool. Somebody could be referring to me that only knows me and my mother's people in her parish and say, oh, it's Michael O'Donoghue, Michael's son of, grandson of
Right,
Donahue.
and that's why the Scottish dropped it.
Yes.
Because they didn't want any ambiguity.
Yeah, that's what he was saying at least.
Well,
and
I think that is very true.
it's certainly intriguing.
Yeah.
I like those ideas.
Yeah.
And
Names are fascinating.
Oh, and you know what else I found on the frontier in America in the forts where they were listing the names of people? They actually used the M, and sometimes it's just M and an apostrophe to stand for Mac.
Right.
And I even found they were using M and a period. So M period Donald, that's Mike Donald. No, that was Mac Donald.
MacDonald.
And you'd
Okay.
never guess it. It's just that we found another list that was the very same names, and it's this guy in the Spanish regime in Missouri was just wrote them like that.
Different way of writing.
M period
Yeah.
because and I thought, well.
No, that is interesting. And the names are, I just love, okay, how do I say this? The Irish names that have come into English, like let's say Gilchrist or Gillespie. Let's use Gillespie. Okay. It doesn't mean anything in English, not a thing. But in Irish, it's MacGilla Aspwig, which is the son of, well, you know this, of course, but the son of the servant of the bishop.
Yes.
And then suddenly you know something about the family. They were connected to the church. They were important. So the servant was important, but the son of the servant, obviously, because it was a good line to be from, or he wouldn't have taken that name.
That's right. And there's so many names. I mean, that refer to they were Brians or judges. And
Brehons.
Brehan and Welsh, of course, is obvious. Son of the Welshman is like Brethnach,
Right.
something similar to
Yeah,
that.
Brannock.
And Ulsterman, I forget what that comes from, but there's something in Irish that brings that to a name too. And it's
I don't know that one.
it is fascinating. So Mac and O, and you could say Mick Mac or Mac Mick to mean O,
Yeah, you could.
son of the son of.
There you go.
But who would do that? It's too much work. So you use the O, and I bet you can. As a matter of fact, in some of those old things, you can find somebody say Mick Mac or Mac Mick.
Right. Well, when they normally put another name in, they'd say like Adon Mac Reardon Mac Donal. They'd put three names in, so you'd be so and so son of so and so son of so and so. Right.
Yes. And what about Mac Mick O?
How about the women?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
Yeah. How about the women?
Now, I've seen a funny word creep in there. You'll be reading it. It'll say N-E-E or N-I with a fada. Mm-hmm. And what does that mean?
Well, it's the same as the Mac and the Mick is the Nick and the knee, and it just means daughter of, or the genitive version of daughter of.
That's right.
Yeah.
And so that's what if you were getting married to somebody, well, your last name might be Kennedy because you're marrying Mr. Kennedy, but your mother's name might have been, or your father's name might have been Donahue, so you'd be Nee Donahue.
That's it.
And so that tells you your mother's side.
I
your
had a very
maternal.
good girlfriend in Ireland whose name was Sullivan, but in Irish she was Nee Hullavoyne.
Nee Hullavoyne.
Yeah, and when she got married, of course, she would have been Ivan Ban, meaning woman of, and then you'd put his name in.
Yeah.
So she would no longer be Nee Hullavoyne, she'd be Ban O'Riordan or something.
And so what would Una Wan mean?
Oh, white Una.
White Una. Okay.
Fair-haired or fair-skinned Una.
Yeah.
So.
Well, what else can we say here about the Mac and the O? So many people have. Well, hey, how about some of the other prefixes that are considered to be Irish, like Fitz
Oh, the Normans.
and Day and De La and Kill and Gil.
Mm-hmm.
That really comes from Giola or LLA.
Gilla, yeah.
Giola, and that was a religious connotation too.
Servant. It
Yes.
just meant servant.
And
yeah.
like Gil Bridget or Kill Bridget,
Right.
follower of Saint Bridget or servant of.
Servant of, yeah.
It's a little general, but you just wonder when you were taking names if it really made a difference, and I think it would. If you're going to live with that first man who picked your name, your great-great-great-grandfather sure thought it meant something. So it's interesting to see.
Names are fascinating and how they've changed and through the centuries, how first names became last names and now they're becoming first names again. We talked about that on the previous session, I believe.
Yeah, that's right. And it's
interesting.
there's so many names like that, and you can study it. And I know the Reverend Patrick Wolf, I think you've got that book, Irish Names and Surnames. He was one of the early ones to categorize it and put all those names down, the boys' names, the girls' names, and then all the surnames. And he wrote that out as best he could in the Irish language.
Excellent.
Which
Yeah,
was
it's a good book.
rare thing to do. And of course, you got all kinds of people doing it today. Well, do we have anything else to add to Mackinac?
Just, I would say the people out there, they go, oh, no. I'm not a Mac. I'm an O.
Yes.
You might look further back in your history and see if maybe at some point you were an O.
Yeah, there's always that little bit of mystery, and you can't be sure until you either get your DNA done or you actually get the paperwork. Of course, there's not much paperwork back around the year 1200.
No, not a lot. The Annals of the Four Masters, maybe.
Yes. That's one of the few things. But that was written 17th century.
Oh, that's right.
And that's when the Macs and O's weren't really smiled upon.
Penal period.
It was a great disadvantage. That's right. The wild geese.
Yeah.
The Treaty of Limerick.
Yeah, I hope you're getting people interested there.
We're
I know
trying.
I am.
But you know what? We're going to have at the Hedge School, where you have the pay sessions and the free sessions. Well, we've got a hedgerow history course, and we're also going to have some pay hedgerow history courses, 99 cents or maybe $3 for a week's worth. I mean, who knows what you'll get? But we talk a lot about the 17th century, a lot about what happened, who the leaders were, how they got defeated, and really surprising things like when did the Irish fight with the English king to defeat the new Irish nobles that had come over from England? And you'd say, what? Why, I know some people that would just stop in their tracks if you told them the Irish were fighting for the king. I think that was King Charles.
History's a complex thing.
Oh, it's a very complex thing. That's all I've got. And boy, I'm really enjoying that. We've just got one or two more, and we're done with this year's promo. So, Renata, take it away.
Slánanish.
Hello Fada is a presentation of the Irish Head School at www.irishroots.com. These introductory sessions are for those curious about the Irish language and for those considering a course of study in the future. Renata, your session leader, also offers a course of study in the Irish language and language services on a regular basis. Contact us on our webpage at irishroots.com or by mail at The Irish Roots Cafe, Box 7575, Kansas City, Missouri 64116. Leave a message on our phone recorder at 816-256-3360. Your hedge school needs your support. Sponsors and memberships are always welcome. So ends another session from the sunny side of the hedge.